साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. So yesterday I couldn't do Vishuddha Vedanta Paribhasha. I could not do. I need not tell the reason. Little ill health. Okay, today we will do at least some Mulavidya Nirasa, a little bit. Half an hour to 40 minutes. So in Siddhanti said to the Purvapakshi. Now first let me say the Purvapakshi says, Jnani has avidya as well as vidya together with him. Avidya and vidya. He gained jnanam to be able to negate avidya. At the same time, he has a trace of avidya. He has avidya lesha, a trace of avidya to account for his prarabdha, due to which he has an individuality and also interaction with the world. So he remains an individual. He remains an individual to interact with the world due to prarabdha. The prarabdha itself necessitates a certain degree of avidya. And that much of avidya he has to retain. So in this thing what happens? Two problems arise. One is vidya is unable to remove all the knowledge. The jnanam is unable to remove the ajnanam completely. It can remove only certain part and leaves out other part, it cannot remove. So the basic nature of jnanam, the basic nature of virodha between jnanam and ajnanam. Jnanam tackles ajnanam. Jnanam removes or destroys avidya. This is contradicted. Second point is, in the same person, jnanam and ajnanam coexisting with the same person. Jnanam and ajnanam. I am wondering, is it Friday today? Just a minute. Yeah, it is Friday. Okay. So Mulavidya Nirasa. So jnanam, ajnanam, both are opposite in their nature. So the jnanam, ajnanam which are opposed in their nature, that he says, Purvapakshi, that they coexist in one person, in one Jivan Mukta. So these two problems arise in Purvapakshi's stand. So he says that, so the first point I repeat, in the first point, jnanam has taken place. Jnanam has taken place in Jivan Mukta, yet a certain degree of, a small degree of avidya remains with him in order to maintain his prarabdha, and that prarabdha gets exhausted as he experiences. At the end of prarabdha, then the avidya also gets exhausted, then he drops away his body, he gets a videha mukti. At that time alone there is a complete dissolution of avidya. So in Jivan Mukti, a major portion of avidya goes away, but a small degree of avidya remains according to them, according to the Purvapakshi, according to the Mulavidya Vadi. The major avidya goes away, but a trace of it remains. That goes away only in Videha Mukti, on the fall of the body. On the fall of the body, after the death of the body, even that avidya lesha goes away, then all avidya goes away completely. In these things, as I told you, avidya, vidya living together is a contradiction. In Jivan Mukta, there is a vidya in him and avidya. The problem arises, how can vidya retain avidya with it? How can Vidya retain. Siddhanti says here, atrapi anupattihi. In this your stand, that Jivan Mukta has a jnanam as well as a little degree of avidya. This contains two contradictions. One is the very nature of avidya vidya. Vidya destroys avidya. This is belied. This goes wrong according to their prakriya. Okay. So when vidya is there, how can avidya coexist with it? Therefore, atrapi anupapattihi tadavastaiva. Siddhanti says, even in this, that he gets a complete mukti only on videha mukti. Complete mukti only on videha mukti, but in jivan mukti he has a little bit of avidya. Okay, this is unacceptable, because even in this stand, the Siddhanti's criticism, the defect Siddhanti pointed out, still is sticking with the Mulavidyavadi. Still he is carrying the same defect. Atrapi anupapattihi tadavastaiva. How? Vidya vidyayorekadikaranatva ayogat. First point is, vidya and avidya cannot coexist in the same one and the same person. In the same person, vidya and avidya, both knowledge and ignorance cannot coexist. Nahi viruddha swabhavayoh, because their very nature is viruddha, opposite to each other. Knowledge destroys ignorance. But you say knowledge coexists with ignorance, it doesn't destroy it. This is one problem. Second thing is, the remaining avidya goes away not by knowledge. Only by experience of karma it will go away. That means avidya has got two kinds or two levels. I don't know what to say there, whether two kinds or two levels or what do you say. Some avidya goes by knowledge. Some avidya goes by the experience of karma. So is avidya not of same nature? What is this? These two kinds of avidya. Is avidya not of the same nature? All avidya should go away by knowledge. Okay. Now, and main problem is avidya vidya coexisting. This is a big contradiction. So therefore, nahi viruddha swabhavayoh tama prakashayoh. Tamaha and prakasha. Tamas is darkness. Prakasha is light. Just like the light and darkness are so stark opposite to each other. They are totally opposite to each other. Similarly, this vidya and avidya are totally opposite to each other. So, tesha tayoh ekatra samaveshaha na yujyate. Their coexisting in one place doesn't happen. Is impossible. This is what Siddhanti told. Now, in this thing, there is another charcha, another discussion, another debate within the debate. Already there is a basic debate going on. So within that there is another debate, slightly diversion. Diversion at the same time relevant to the same topic. Now, katham na yujyate, Purvapakshi, Ekadeshi are the same. Mulavidyavadi says, how can you assert that they don't coexist? Katham na yujyate. That darkness and light, how do you say they cannot coexist? Drishyate hi alpa deepa pradeshe tamasopi ishadhanuvrittihi. Because we see, now here the dispute is about, Siddhanti told that the knowledge and ignorance cannot coexist in the same person. Similar to light and darkness, tamas and prakasha. like Tamaprakashau, like them they cannot exist. So Siddhanti gave an illustration of light and darkness. Now Purvapakshi is taking up the light and darkness, which is only an illustration, and is advocating a different theory. He says, how can you say that light and darkness cannot coexist? Light and darkness do coexist. Oh, this is a strange logic. Here one thing is, he says light and darkness can coexist. One point. In these things, one point is, an illustration, a drishtanta is given. In Sanskrit we call it drishtanta. An illustration is given, okay, an illustration is given which is commonly known to all. There is no dispute, because illustration is given to explain some technical point. So to explain some technical point, an illustration is brought in. What is an illustration? A common event which is well known to all people, both to the debaters, both the sides of the debaters. This side of the debater, the other side of the debater, disputant, both the disputants, what is commonly known, what is commonly acceptable to all is brought as an illustration. But if the illustration itself is disputed, then it is not illustration at all. Okay? Illustration is not an illustration at all. You can't bring that as an illustration if there is a dispute about it. Here it is a dispute about the very drishtanta. See, what is commonly known in the world, we bring it as an example, like a rope and snake. If you have a dispute about the very rope and snake, then better leave it and bring something else. Don't argue wasting time in the very illustration. Okay. But here, Purvapakshi, I mean that Mulavidyavadi, is disputing about the very illustration. Now first we have to establish the very illustration. Now he wants to say that darkness, he wants to say two things. Darkness is opposite to light, true, but darkness is something positive substance. Darkness is a positive substance, light is a positive substance, two material. Darkness is one material, light is one material, two materials coexist. This is what Mulavidyavadins are trying to say. Darkness is one material, light is another material, these two materials coexist. Therefore, Vidya can coexist. That is his argument. Okay, light and darkness coexist? But what do you mean by light and darkness? As if there are two things. See, to coexist, there should be two things. Isn't it? They coexist, you say coexistence. To be able to coexist, there must be two things. Is light and darkness two things? Yes, they are two things. Darkness is an independent material, independent substance. Light is another substance. They two substances come together. This is what, who says? Mulavidyavadi says. They are two independent substances. Okay, this is the problem. We have to discuss it now. Now he says, how do you say light and darkness? Now why does he want to prove that the darkness is a material? And 2 points are there. Darkness is a material. Second is, it does coexist with light. Second point. Third point is, why do you bring this example here? Why do you bring this example dispute? Why do you want to assert these 2 points? So that light and darkness can coexist. We can prove the coexistence of jnanam and ajnanam. We can prove the coexistence of jnanam and ajnanam with the help of this example. See, jnanam and ajnanam is a matter of our anubhava. You don't need another illustration to prove this by inference. He wants to prove it by inference. First, he wants to prove light and darkness itself is a he made it into a matter of dispute. He made it into a matter of dispute. So he asserts light and darkness are two substances coming together. But nobody sees that darkness is another substance coming together. Darkness is simply absence of light. So they are not two things. First, they are not two things. Darkness is simply an absence of light. Now he says, Mulavidya says, darkness is another substance. And first point. Second point is it coexists with light. Second point. Third point is, and this forms the illustration. This forms the drishtanta to infer that jnanam and ajnanam can coexist in jnani. Why? Then jnani, in spite of jnani, he can have an ajnanam in order to be able to teach. Main point is what? Jnani, Jivan Mukta has got ajnanam and jnanam together. And such jnani who has a certain degree of ajnanam with him, that means who has not removed ajnanam completely, still he has got a certain degree of ajnanam, such person is a Jivan Mukta and he teaches. Siddhanti doesn't accept them. First thing is jnani having a little ajnanam teaching, that means when a person who has a certain degree of ajnanam, he cannot be called jnani or Jivan Mukta. And he can't teach. And he can't be valid pramana. He can't be a valid pramana to teach something. Because when he himself carries a certain degree of ajnanam, how can he talk about jnanam? When he himself carries a certain degree of ajnanam, he is unfit to talk about jnanam. And therefore, his words are not valid pramana. And he says, yes, his words are valid pramana to prove that there is an Advaitam. To prove the Advaitam truth, Jivan Mukta is a pramana who carries a little ajnana. See, that means is ajnani's experience a valid pramana to prove the Advaita? That's what it implies. Mulavidya Vadin's prakriya. It implies that. The other points I just repeat, which I have already stated, that darkness is a substance, is a material. Second thing is they coexist. Dark and light, they are two substances coexist. Third point is taking this as an example, drishtanta, to prove that jnanam ajnanam can coexist. Okay. Siddhanti say, now Purvapakshi is still continuing, Mulavidyavadi. Drishyatehi alpa pradeshe tamaso ishadanuvruttihi. He gives, to explaining the very illustration. Now the illustration has become a matter of dispute. Illustration is light and darkness. Therefore, now he says, Drishyateri alpa deepa pradeshe, when there is a little light, not a bright light, but little dull light or dim light. I don't know how to call in English. Dull light or dim light. Alpa pradeepa. Alpa pradeepa means not a very bright light, non-bright. Non-bright means a certain, I don't know how to say in English. Anyway, I'll refer the dictionary again and thesaurus and tell you. But now at the moment I say a dim light or a dull light. So in a place where there is a dull light, there a little bit of darkness also is present. Tamasopi ishad anuvrittihi. See the Swamiji's Sanskrit statement. Tamasopi ishad anuvrittihi alpadeepa pradeshe drishyate. Drishyate, it is seen. He says this is a matter of our experience. Everybody's experience, it is a common experience. Who says Mulavidyavadi? But what is he referring to? That a common experience, he is interpreting the common experience where when there is a little light, not a bright light, less bright light, that is a dim light or dull light. There, in the dull light, what happens? There is a light as well as accompanying it, coexisting with it is a little bit of darkness. The same light and darkness he is explaining in another way. Chayayamapyatapo even in the shade means a shadow. In the shadow, chayayamapi atapaha, the sunlight, the hot sunlight. So the hot sunlight is present even in a shadow, isn't it? Atapaha anumanagamya taratamyena upalabhyamana aushnalingyat. Even in the shadow there is a light. In the dim light there is a mixing of little darkness in the dim light. In the place where there is a dull light, there is a mixing of little darkness. But in the shadow, there is a certain degree of light also. How? Anumanagamya taratamyena aushnalingyat. Because proportionate to the degree of heat we experience in it. Proportionate to that, because the heat is directly experienced by your sense of touch. So where there is a heat, there is a light also. Therefore he says, upalabhyamana aushnalingat. With the help of our experience of heat, a varying degree of heat is experienced in the shade also. See, in the open light, in the bright light, you experience more heat. But in the shade, also a little degree is experienced. Okay. So, anumanagamya taratamyena upalabhyamanam. The certain degree of light is experienced. With the help of it, we can say that there is a light also. In the shade, there is a darkness. In the shade of a tree, or in the shade of a room, or in a veranda, there is a shade, but there is a little bit of light compared to pitch darkness. Compared to pitch darkness in a veranda type, there is a little in the shade. And the shade of a tree also you can take. Shade of a tree or of a shade of any ceiling. There is a little bit of light and also a little bit of darkness. Don't we see that? This is what Purvapakshi says. I mean, Mulavidyavadi says. Siddhanti says, Maivam. You can't accept this. No, it is not true. It is not true because Prakasha Bhavasya Tamasaha. First basic mistake, the difference between you and me, Siddhanti says, Sachidananda Swamiji says, following Shankara, he says, first point we disagree is that darkness is a positive substance. Darkness is a non-existent. There is no such thing called darkness at all. It is only simply an absence of light. There is only light. They are not two materials. Mulavidyavadi told there are two materials. One is darkness, another is light. Darkness is one substance, light is another substance. Siddhanti says here, light is a substance, darkness is its absence. Okay? Light is a substance, darkness is its absence. Darkness is not another additional substance mixes with light. So similarly, Ajnanam is a material, Jnanam is a material, and they get mixed up. We say Ajnanam is simply absence of Jnanam. Okay, so Prakasha Abhavasya Tamasaha. Tamas is not a, darkness is not a substance. It is only simply absence of light. Siddhanti holds that darkness is only simply absence of light. Therefore, prakashastale darshayitum ashakyatvat. So, darkness being an absence of light, you can't show the darkness where there is light. If it were an additional black substance, he is talking as if darkness is a black substance. Light is a white substance, darkness is a black substance. So the two substances get mixed up. This is what Mulavidya says. Siddhanti says here, no. Light is, of course, a substance. White substance, bright substance, we can understand. But darkness is not another dark, black substance. Darkness is simply absence of light. Okay, absence of complete light. Prakashastale, so you cannot show darkness where the light is. Where the light is, exactly in the same spot, darkness cannot be shown. The Mulavidyavadin's stand is, dark is one substance, light is another substance, they get mixed up, they can coexist. They get mixed up, they get coexistence. Siddhanti says, darkness is not a separate substance at all, it is simply absence of light. So, where there is a light, you can't show the absence of light in the same place. You can't show the absence of light in the same. He says, darkness and light can coexist because you can see them too. How? Where there is a dim light, there is a little degree of darkness. Or in the shadow, there is a light also. How? In the shadow, is there darkness alone or light also? In the shadow, there is definitely little darkness. But what about light? He says in the shadow there is little degree of light also. How? In the shadow, that Mulavidyavadin says, shadow is a darkness. Shadow is darkness, but a little degree of light is present in the shadow. Mulavidyavadin continues. How? Because when you go into the shadow, sometimes you feel little warm, sometimes you little feel cold. Okay? So, there is a degree of, there is a fluctuation. There is a fluctuation in the heat and cold. In the warmth and cold, there is a fluctuation. So, on account of this fluctuation in warmth and cold, you can infer that there is a light. Without the light, how can you experience the warmth? How can you experience the warmth without the light? So the light alone, the sunlight is hot. So therefore, when you go to the shadow, you find little warmth. Don't you find? See, in the bright sunlight in the summer, in the bright sunlight you feel excess of heat. But you come to the shadow is also not uniform in heat. Sometimes it is warmth, sometimes it is little cold. Even in the shadow, see, two things are there. In front of a room, there is a what you call a ceiling. There is a veranda. Veranda, you find little warmth. Still you go inside the room, it is still cold. Colder it is. Okay. Therefore, in the shadow, there is a fluctuation of warmth. Based upon the fluctuation of warmth, we infer that there is a light in the shadow. There is a light in the shadow, there is a darkness in the light. This is what he says. With the light, darkness is mixed where there is a dim light, dull light. Where there is a dim light or a dull light, darkness is mixed there. In the shadow, where shadow is mainly darkness, but there is a little light is mixed. In the shadow, which is mainly darkness, a little light. When you dispute an illustration, this is what is unnecessary argument. But anyway, we have to discuss. he is disputing the very illustration in order to prove that jnanam ajnanam coexist. Okay. So two things he is telling. Where there is a dim light, little bit of darkness is mixed, because darkness is a black substance, it is mixed. In the shadow is the basically darkness. Shadow is essentially darkness, but little bit of light is mixed there. How do you know light? How do you know? Because the shadow is darkness. Where is the light? He says, light which is inferable through warmth, fluctuating warmth. Warmth fluctuates in the shadow. So from the fluctuation of the warmth, fluctuation means more and less, that is experienced by our sense of touch. So with the help of the warmth, fluctuating warmth, you infer the presence of fluctuating light also. So there is a fluctuating light, there is a certain degree of light in the darkness, mixed with the darkness, but darkness is mixed with the light, light is mixed with the darkness. Who says that? Mulavidya Vadi. Siddhanti says, Maivam. No. This is just unacceptable. You are misrepresenting what is a common experience. What is a common experience? It should not give rise to dispute. Common experience is common. Common to all is a universal experience. Universal experience is a common thing. It should not be a matter of dispute. If it is a matter of dispute, you can't take it as an example. Now first he has to establish it, then this forms an illustration to prove the jnanam ajnanam coexistence. So we tentatively leave aside jnanam and ajnanam coexist or not. That is to be proven. That is a point to be proven. So we leave it aside. We are disputing about the very illustration. Okay. Now Siddhanti says that such kind of light mixing up with darkness, darkness mixing up with light, these are just unacceptable. They are just imaginations. Your wild imaginations, they just don't exist. Go by the experience. Siddhanti says, don't unnecessarily imagine and try to interpret through your imaginations. Imagination should not be there in open facts. What is a fact? It should be a matter of direct experience. So the direct experience is there is a light and darkness is an absence of light. This is a universal experience of everybody. It shouldn't become a matter of dispute, but you are making it. Now I have to explain it. Okay. Siddhanti says that prakasha abhava is tamaha. Darkness is simply an absence of light. Okay. And therefore, you cannot show darkness where there is a light. Purvapakshi says, with the light there is a mixing of darkness. Where there is a light, there is a mixing up little bit of darkness. Mulavidya Vadi told. Siddhanti says, you cannot show darkness where there is a light. That means when the light is there, how can there be absence of the light? Showing the light means showing the darkness where there is light. Showing the darkness where there is a light means where there is a light, there its absence also is present. Do you say where there is a light, there is an absence of light also? Darkness is absence of light. Where there is a light, how can you show, how can you see the absence of light also? Because darkness is simply absence of light. But Purvapakshi says it is an additional substance. Therefore, it can coexist with it. But one more problem arises. If darkness is not touched, you will discuss in future. If darkness is a separate substance and it can coexistence with light, the main problem arises is the their mutual opposition will be lost. That means darkness cannot destroy, light cannot destroy the darkness. We take this example that light destroys darkness. That means light removes the darkness. Light dispels the darkness. But if darkness can coexist with light, then light is not opposite to it. Light is not an enemy to darkness. It allows the darkness, it retains, they become friends and start shaking their hands. Light and darkness can shake their hands and become friends. Can they become friends? And a Mulavidya says that yes, they can become friends and live together. Then our main point is light dispels darkness. Jnanam should dispel the ajnanam. That main point will suffer. The main point will be belied. It will go wrong. Nanucha upachayapachayadhyavastha bheda vishishtam रूपवत्या च उपलभ्यमानं तमः कथं भावताम् अवलभ्येत. Abba is going into further dispute. Okay, we will stop with this. It's a very complicated dispute because it is only arguing alone. What is a matter of experience, you don't need to argue this much. It is a straight, you point out. If there are two things mixed up, you just distinguish them, it becomes easy. What is a matter of experience? It becomes easy to understand. What is a matter of imagination, postulating, wild imagination, then argument, it goes on endlessly. You keep on arguing. If you build up an idea with an argument, another person can argue, another person can build up another idea opposite to your idea. He will totally argue opposite to it. And you argue in favor of one idea, another person can argue against it. So an argument alone brings this idea. This idea has no existence apart from your argument. By arguing, you are building up this idea. You are bringing this idea only by argument. So only arguments are the help, arguments are the basis. Then the other person is not less. He also brings his own argument and puts in another idea opposite to your idea. So this is a purely logical dispute they made it. But this is where Swamiji says this is against Anubhava. Vedanta is a matter of Anubhava. Vedanta is a matter of experience. You watch, analyze, distinguish the experience. That's all. You watch the experience, analyze them, investigate them, examine them and see them. That is simple Vedanta. But if it is an ideas built up by arguments, and one fellow builds up one argument, the other person says something else, it goes on endlessly. Now this argument is going further. Because he says, or shall I just say Purvapakshi and Siddhanta to next class? Nacha upachayapachayau avastha bheda vishishtam upachayapachayadhyavastha bheda vishishtam rupavattaya cha upalabhyamanam tamaha. And the Mulavidyavadi says, how can you say darkness is simply absence of light? He is not accepting. See, what is a matter of experience should not form a matter of dispute. What is this? It is pen. What is its color? Ash color. Over. It is long and you can feel the touch. It is smooth and all. What is a matter of experience doesn't constitute a matter of dispute. Isn't it? Now he says, how can you say, Mulavidyavadi says, how can you say darkness simply absence of light? He is disputing. How can you say it is simply an absence of light because it is a positive substance. It is not absence of light, he says. It is not an absence of light, it is a positive substance. How? Because I am perceiving it. Since I am perceiving it, it is not an absence of light, it is something positive substance. How? How are you perceiving? Two things I see. Two perceptions I can show you. So based upon these two perceptions, I can infer that it is a positive substance. One is, it is visible having a color. Darkness has a black color. Okay? One is, I am able to perceive the black color. When I read it first time, I laughed and laughed and laughed. What is this? Where is he going? All these things. Darkness is a black. Darkness contains a black color. It possesses black color. Second thing is, darkness increases, fluctuates. Okay? Upachaya, apachaya means fluctuation. It increases, decreases. So two characters the darkness has. Two qualities it has got. What contains two qualities? Not one, I am showing you two qualities. One is, it has a darkness, it has got a black color. Second is, it keeps fluctuating. Fluctuating means it is expanding and decreasing. It is expanding. Expanding means it is enlarging and shrinking. Enlarging, shrinking. So darkness enlarges and shrinks. It is one quality. Second is, it contains black color. So when it contains two qualities, two characters, then darkness must be a substance. How can you say it is a simple absence of light? This is his contention. What Siddhanti says, you enjoy this Purvapakshi's argument, you think over it, what could be the answer? Swamiji will answer in the next class, because I will have a small sessions alone, as I already told you, until I get checkup and I am treated completely, my problem is healed. I will have only small sessions up to 35 to 40 minutes. After my complete healing, then only I will go up to 55 to 60 minutes. Okay? You see the darkness. It's very interesting. He says two characters. You think over it and what Swamiji answers, we will see. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Hari Om Tat Sat.